Radio, I want to start by positioning this chat with four phases, and it's almost built on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I've talked about this before in my online courses, the Glenn James Spending Plan, but just as a 30,000 foot view, or whatever they call it, we need to get to this thing of success, or your definition of success. We can't, most of the time, wake up tomorrow and ta-da, it's done. We need to build upon different things in our life, and I've broken it up into four phases. Phase one, it's like the bottom of the triangle. And I can tell you right now, most people in their financial life, in their lives, many of adults that are out there, they might be sitting next to you on the train, they're your co-workers. Most people never leave this phase, but it is the most important phase. It is that foundation phase of your life. I used to say that, you're not worrying about going on a 10-day silent yoga retreat in the hills of India or wherever you do your yoga retreats if you don't have some basic things in your life like food, shelter, transportation, all that. So we need to look at these phases, and you may have phase one sorted, and that's awesome. But let this be a reminder that we're not above any kind of rules of process. Gravity is a law, and no one's above gravity. You can be for a while. You can get your plane and zoom up or shoot up into the sky. Awesome. You can't stay there forever. Something will happen. You'll run out of fuel. You'll need to land. So lean into these phases, and I'll start with like the most basic thing in personal finance. I sound like a broken record, but there are people that are watching and that are listening who are still in this rut, and that's with consumer debt. I'm talking credit cards. I'm talking Afterpay. I'm talking personal loans for holidays, maybe car loans, store cards, any of that stuff. The reason why we need to get rid of that is because it is a symptom that you've categorically overspent or you are living beyond your means. And as I said, middle Australia, lower and middle Australia get stuck in this rut. It's interesting when we talk about being financially free. There's kind of three parts that society fall in, and these parts I don't want you to fall into. Okay, so the first one is on the far, one side of the scale. It's literally destitute. You might not be able to find a place to live. You don't have an income. Things are really, really bad. And it could be by no fault of your own. So that's one end. The other end of the spectrum is you've got millions and millions of dollars. Life's good. There's no control. You do what you want. You get what you want. You're just so far removed. But it can start to cause damage because you might be paying for things that are wrecking and harming your life. You could be using hardcore drugs recreationally, and you might be in a spiral there because you've got no boundaries. Okay, there's unchecked wealth. You're doing what you want. You're a little brat and all that stuff. In the middle, it's a lot of Australians, high income, high bills, high stress, week on week living, no savings, hard to save, really find it hard to build wealth for the future. Again, some of these factors are no fault of your own, such as the cost of rent, the mortgage size that you need if you want to buy a house in Australia. But you don't want to be, where possible, anywhere near those three markers. I honestly think you want to be wherever you are, that you've got this feeling, no matter what your income is or what your expenses are, this feeling of, I feel financially free, there's no week-on-week stress for my life, and I don't want for much, I've got options, life's good. Okay, so that's kind of the first thing. And within that, if you are in that pinch of high income, high expenses, or you're living week on week, really struggling, and consumer debt has crept in, we need to put a stop to that. It's going to be hard, but we need to put a stop to it. You've got your credit card, maybe you're trying hard, you can't shake this $3,000 debt. It's not because you bought one $3,000 item, it's death by 1,000 cuts, and I need you to cut it up, take things seriously, and try and really get out of that consumer debt as soon as possible. The next thing that, again, a lot of people don't have this stuff, is to have a cash buffer in place, or what we call an emergency fund. If stuff went down financially, you were in a pickle and you needed access to cash right away, you wouldn't have that cash, okay? So my encouragement to you is to start with a target $2,000. If you've got consumer debt, minimum payments, your reason for living financially, keep the minimum payments on your consumer debt and put as much money you can into a bank account to build that cash buffer. You might say, Glenn, that doesn't make any sense. I've got this high interest rate credit card over here. Why are you telling me minimum payments only and to put cash aside? Well, I need to tell you what you've been doing so far has not worked. So try this. If this way doesn't work, go back to your system. But behavior and habit got you into the credit card, got you into the debt, not logic and reason. You can't use logic and reason to get you out of that mess. You've got to use behavior, the same thing that got you into that mess. So the target is $2,000 emergency fund as a buffer, as a starter. Then once you've got the $2,000, I want you then to go through and plow and try and crush that consumer debt. While you're doing that, we're not doing holidays, we're sacrificing, we might be only going out once a week to eat. You're buying coffee for home, I've got my coffee here. You're really paying attention to your money to have some big change as soon as possible. You've got to sacrifice to win. We sacrifice in the short term to achieve our long-term objectives. The next thing that we really need to do in phase one is by starting to try and remove us from that feeling that we're living week to week or payday to payday. That in itself, if you're waiting for Thursday once a fortnight, if you're hanging out there for that 15th of the month when you get paid, if you're hanging for that Friday afternoon when money drops into your account, we need to somehow set up a system that is automated and removes that feeling of you hanging out for payday each week. And honestly, I believe I can get you there if you don't have a money system in place already. I've got a free online course. It's called the Glenn James Spending Plan. Thousands and thousands of people have done this course. Watch all the videos. I'll show you how to manage your money so you do not have that feeling of living week to week. And I reckon if you follow my plan, you'll get there within 2 to 3 pay cycles. But you've got to lean into it. You've got to get your spouse on board. The thing is, with my spending plan, the goal is for that plan to start to change your habits and behaviors, okay? Once you start to change your habits and behaviors, then you'll outgrow my spending plan and you'll adapt it more to however you manage money. So it is a behavioral tool. It's a spending plan. We're not asking you to go back and look at everything that you've spent to the dollar over the last 3 months. I need you to start by just having a system that you can implement. And I honestly think this part of the phase might be easy to achieve, and that is that, feeling of not living week to week. Another really important thing in the phase one of, being financially free is to have secure housing. Now, that doesn't mean you need to buy your own house to live in. That doesn't mean you need to live mortgage free. I just want you to have some type of certainty and security in your life. If you're thinking, well, we're renting at the moment and we're on a month-by-month lease and it's okay, and you want to lean into building a life that is on your terms, that you're going to be financially free, can you lock in a 12-month lease and just get that certainty and security in your housing? Because that does help a lot. If you talk to anyone who's ever slept rough or not had financial certainty, not had housing certainty over their life, they will tell you that it just adds this other level of fear, all the emotional vibes, anxiety. It's really bad. So I want you to just look at secure housing if you can. If you are renting and it's not the most ideal place and you're like, oh, we don't want to stay here another 6 months or another 3 months when the lease is up, I want you to make a move and try and get somewhere that is more settled so you can go home each night and you've got this runway of housing security. It's really important. As much as that's a psychological play, the kind of last thing with the financial security thing is to be physically and mentally healthy. I'll start with being mentally healthy first. If you're not mentally well, it's going to be hard for you to carry things. It's going to be hard for you to look to the future. I've shared that I've had problems with depression and anxiety, and even when I go through life, and we all have bad days and bad moments, when you're not mentally healthy, it's really hard to look to the future. It's really hard to believe that there is hope for tomorrow. It's really hard to plan for the future. It's just really hard. And I just really want to encourage you, the foundation of your life is a rock solid you. Because once you are healthy and you are rock solid, it will be so much easier to achieve this financial freedom, this feeling of being financially free, if you yourself are mentally and emotionally strong. Because there will be a time, if you really want to lean into what I'm talking about and how I've built my life around this freedom of time and money, is you're going to have to give a fair bit of energy to really ramp up your life and go at it. Because we've got to have a bit of a grind every now and again, and you've got to lean into stuff. And if you're not mentally healthy or physically healthy, and I've struggled with the physical health thing, and I've resolved that just walking is really good to get my body moving and also to help with my mental health, and I see psychologists and all that stuff. But to be the best version of you, you need to be the best version of you. So that basically rounds out phase 1 of 4 of how we can build a life that is financially free, and at least while you're on the way, have this feeling of financial freedom.